5 signs someone is deeply jealous of you. They won't admit it. They won't say the words. But you can feel it. It's in the silence when you walk into a room. It's in their eyes when you speak of your progress. It's in their forced smiles when you succeed. Jealousy is a strange thing. It wears a mask of politeness. It whispers behind closed doors. It sits quietly while watching you climb, all the while hoping you fall. And here's the truth: the more grounded you become, the more you disturb those who haven't yet found their center. The calmer you get, the more your presence shakes their instability. Your growth, it makes their stagnation harder to ignore. Your peace, it exposes their chaos. And your discipline, that's the one thing they can't copy, no matter how hard they try. But don't expect them to tell you that. No one ever walks up and says, "Hey, I'm jealous of your strength." They won't tell you they envy your self-control, your resilience, or your ability to rise when life hits you hard. They won't say, "I wish I had your inner power." No, they stay silent. But oh, they show it. Jealousy always leaks through the cracks. You just have to know what to look for. It's not always obvious. In fact, it's rarely direct. Jealousy is not a punch to the face, it's a slow, silent erosion, a quiet attempt to undermine. It's not the loud critic, it's the whisper behind your back. The subtle shade in a compliment. The passive-aggressive tone in a conversation. It's the look they give when you win. The fake cheer. The uncomfortable pause. It's the smile that doesn't reach the eyes. And it's important to recognize these signs, not so we can retaliate, but so we can remain untouched by their bitterness. Because those who walk the path of inner discipline must be fireproof. While envy consumes them from the inside, we train ourselves to rise above it. Jealousy is the weapon of the weak, not to fight, but to corrode. And if you want to live free, you must not absorb what was never meant to be yours. So today, we reveal the 4 signs of deep jealousy. Not to condemn, not to judge, but to understand, to see clearly, so that when the fire of envy surrounds you, you walk through it untouched. Sign 1. They celebrate you when you fail. Now, this one might surprise you, because on the surface, it looks like support, it looks like comfort, but listen closely, watch carefully. Does it feel too comforting when you fall? Do they seem a little too relaxed when things go wrong for you? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Some people cheer the loudest when you're at your lowest. Not because they care, but because your failure makes them feel safe. When you're rising, when your discipline sharpens, your mind clears, and you begin to stand tall, they start to shrink inside. Why? Because your progress forces them to confront their own stagnation. It reminds them of everything they're not doing, every dream they've delayed, every goal they've abandoned. So when you stumble, it's like a breath of fresh air for them. They can relax again. The threat is gone. They're no longer being reminded of their wasted potential. You'll hear it in their voice. "I told you not to aim too high. See? That's why I don't try those things. It's okay. Maybe it wasn't meant for you." Sounds supportive, doesn't it? But dig a little deeper, and you'll hear the echo of satisfaction. And here's where we turn to the wisdom of the Stoics. Epictetus once wrote, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." And the jealous man? He thinks he knows you. He thinks you'll always stay below him. He thinks your fall proves his way is right. But he is wrong, because you don't stay down. You rise, again and again, and that haunts him. Your resilience reveals his resignation. Your strength confronts his weakness. Your calm shatters his chaos. So what do? Do you hate him for it? No, you pity him. Because a man who takes pleasure in another man's fall is not strong, he is starving. Starving for meaning, starving for peace, starving for self-respect. And we don't feed that hunger. We don't drink from the cup of petty revenge. We drink from the well of self-mastery. We train ourselves to respond, not react, to see clearly, not emotionally, to walk forward with stillness, even when others try to pull us down. That's why recognizing this sign is so powerful. It protects your mind, it shields your soul, and it teaches you to walk with grace, even through silent hostility. Sign number 2. They criticize the fire they cannot control. Have you ever noticed how the same energy that inspires some intimidates others? Your ambition, your focus, your refusal to be average, it triggers something deep in them. Not admiration, not curiosity, but discomfort, and that discomfort often turns into criticism. They say you're too intense. They call you obsessed. They mock your routines. They laugh at your self-discipline. They say things like, relax, you're taking life too seriously. Or, why do you always have to be so extreme? But the truth is simple. They mock the fire because they can't control it. They try to put it out because it burns too brightly for their dull existence. Epictetus warned us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid, and you will be, because when you break the mold, people will try to put you back in it. When you grow beyond the boundaries they're used to, they'll try to shrink you down. But that's not your concern. Let them whisper, let them question, let them misunderstand. Your path is not theirs to comprehend. Your fire is not theirs to tame. The criticism they throw at you, it's not really about you. It's about their discomfort with your growth. It's about their fear that your fire will expose their shadows. So don't dim your light. Don't slow down just to make others comfortable. And never trade your discipline for their approval. Because jealousy disguised as concern is still jealousy. And you were never meant to fit in. You were born to lead, with quiet strength and unshakable clarity. Recognizing these first 2 signs is a powerful beginning. You start to see the patterns, hear the tone, feel the hidden intentions. You stop reacting with confusion or anger. You begin responding with awareness. But there's more. The 3rd and 4th signs, perhaps even more subtle, reveal the deep emotional currents hidden behind friendly smiles and familiar faces. And as we move into the next part, we'll uncover them together, not to judge, but to stay grounded, to walk with strength, to remain fireproof. Ready for sign 3? Let's keep going. When you begin to walk steadily on the path of personal growth, 2 things happen. You move forward, and others begin to reveal the emotions they can no longer hide. You don't need to say a word. You don't need to prove anything. Your calm presence and consistent effort alone are enough to stir within them a sense of unease, confusion, and yes, envy. Jealousy rarely appears as a direct attack. It rarely shows up as harsh criticism. It doesn't scream in your face, "I'm jealous of you." No, it wears a mask. It's carefully disguised. It shows up in comments that seem gentle on the surface. You've changed. Don't work too hard. Why push yourself like that? You're fine the way you are. You don't need to change anymore. At first glance, those words sound like concern. But pause for a second and ask yourself, are they really worried about you? Or are they trying to pull you back into the space where they feel more comfortable? The truth is, they don't criticize you because they care. They do it because you are a living reminder of what they've refused to become. Your effort makes them feel guilty. Your quiet strength, your peaceful silence, challenges them. Your growth, wordless and steady, makes them feel small, not because you meant to, but because your presence forces them to confront the stagnation in their own life. They feel exposed, not because you said anything, but because you lived something. And that shames them. But we do not dim our inner fire just to soothe the eyes of those afraid of the light. We do not explain why we are disciplined. We do not justify our transformation. We walk forward because the path of virtue demands it. Let them call it arrogance. Let them say we're obsessed. We call it by one word, and one word only: purpose. And that, right there, is what terrifies them, because they have no purpose. Or worse, they once did, but they let it die long ago. Sign 3. They try to compete without ever admitting they're competing. This is one of the most subtle behaviors, and yet, it reveals jealousy more clearly than almost anything else. You begin working quietly. You stop caring what others think, say, or do. You focus on your mission, on your daily effort. And then something remarkable happens. You find peace. You no longer seek approval. You stop comparing. You stop performing. You simply live in alignment with your true self. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, Book 4, tranquility comes when you stop caring what they say or think, and just do what you must. But some people can't handle that tranquility. They begin to mimic you. They imitate your habits. They try to one-up you, not to improve themselves, but to prove to you that they're still ahead. They never say they're in competition with you. But somehow, you know, they're playing a game you never entered. They're running a race by themselves. And you're just walking calmly on your path. The irony is, your indifference is what frustrates them the most. Because you don't react, you don't get drawn in. You don't let them live rent-free in your mind. They try everything to impress you, to get your attention, to outshine you. But you remain steady, composed, quietly focused, and that they can't stand. Here's the truth. We do not compete with anyone, because the only enemy we have is within. The one battling his own ego, his laziness, his fear and his old patterns, has no time to prove anything to the outside world. So when they try to impress you, remain silent. When they ignore you in hopes of making you feel less than, smile gently. When they try to surpass you, stay calm. Their storm is not yours to fix. Their jealousy is not yours to feed. And in the end, it's your peace that will offend them, your silence that will expose them, your composure that will leave them speechless. All of it, without a single word. Sign 4. They downplay what they secretly admire. In the previous part, we explored a subtle form of jealousy, when someone silently competes with you while pretending on the outside that they don't care. But now, we move into something even more delicate, more dramatic, and harder to detect. It's when someone deliberately downplays the very things they secretly admire in you. You see, people who are jealous of you almost never give you genuine compliments. And when they're forced to, those compliments always come with a strange twist. It doesn't sound like recognition. It sounds like they're grinding their teeth, swallowing the bitter truth that you've just done something they couldn't. They might say, with a forced smile, "It's not a big deal. You just got lucky. Anyone could have done that. Nothing special." Well, timing is everything, right? At first glance, these comments sound light, maybe even harmless, but you can feel the insincerity dripping from every word. Because here's the truth. They know, deep down, that they couldn't do what you've done. They've seen your hard work. They've witnessed your self-discipline. Day after day, they've noticed the nights you kept working when everyone else had already given up. They're aware that what you have today isn't luck, it's blood, sweat, and quiet perseverance. What they call luck is your unseen resilience. What they call nothing special is your silent war with yourself. You didn't start this journey to get applause. You didn't strive for validation. You moved forward because the road ahead was calling you. Because you knew, if you didn't keep walking, you'd betray your own potential. But now that you've gone further, reached heights they only dare to dream of, they choose dismissal as a disguise for envy. It's not that impressive, probably just lucky. Anyone can get that if the timing's right. But these aren't neutral observations. These are defense mechanisms, spoken by someone who's trying to make peace with the fact that they didn't have the courage to do what you did. But here's the key. You don't need to respond. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to defend your journey or shout, "I worked hard for this." Because you don't need their approval. You don't live to be praised. You breathe, not because someone allows you to. You keep going, not because someone cheers you on, but because you've decided not to stop. We don't argue with small minds. We don't try to teach those who feed off jealousy. We simply smile, not because we agree, but because we understand they're fighting their own inner insecurities. And if they want to pretend that everything you've achieved was just luck, let them. If they want to convince themselves that it's no big deal, that's their choice. You don't have to prove anything, because you know what it cost you. And you carry that truth like a warrior carries his scars, not to show off, but to remember what he fought for. You don't need to be understood. You don't need the applause. Because when something is truly real, it doesn't need to scream for recognition. Let them say what they want. You just keep walking. And you're calm? That's what unsettles them the most. Because you don't react. You don't argue. You don't resent. You just live, grounded, strong, and quietly proud. Fifth sign. They try to one-up you in everything. Have you ever shared something you're proud of, only to have someone immediately try to outshine it? You tell them you've started working out again. They suddenly mention they just ran a marathon. You say you've been reading more lately. They casually mention finishing 3 books last week. You get a promotion. They downplay it by saying they were offered something even better elsewhere. This isn't about celebrating with you. It's about shifting the spotlight back to them. People who are deeply jealous often feel threatened by your progress. So instead of supporting you, they compete with you, sometimes subtly, sometimes openly. They want to prove they're better, smarter, more successful, even if no one asked for a comparison. This constant need to top everything you say isn't confidence. It's insecurity in disguise. Because truly confident people don't need to compete. They celebrate others without feeling small themselves. Jealousy doesn't always come with loud announcements. Sometimes, it shows up in silence, in the forced smiles, in the subtle digs, in the need to compete where no competition was ever invited. But here's the truth. Their jealousy is not your burden. It's a mirror that reflects their own insecurity, not your worth. So what do? You don't shrink. You don't argue. You don't chase validation. Instead, you glow, quietly, steadily, stoically. You stay focused on your path, your peace, your power. Because when you remain centered, when you refuse to play their game, you remind the world that strength doesn't shout, it stands. So let them talk, let them compete, let them compare. You You rise with grace. You lead with calm. And you live with purpose. This is Stoic Glow. If this message spoke to something deep in you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because every week, we remind you of one simple truth: your greatest power is your inner peace.